Hello and welcome again to another video here on Security in Mind. So today we're going to talk about Django Security. Now I noticed that this is a quite common framework these days, so I'm basically just going to walk you through some of the things that Django and security, what is going on, how can we secure it, so let's get started. Alright, so let's just talk about what is Django, because in many cases people they like, Django, is that a movie? Yeah, it is, but in this particular case Django is a free open source Python web framework that follows the model of modern template view architectural pattern. Oh my god. So I want to explain my reaction to this. I feel that the world do not need more frameworks. I feel that the world got enough frameworks already as it is. And the reason for that is every time a new framework is being shipped out and created, you just take some step back and go like, oh, so we need to work with security again. And developers, they don't get it. Sorry to say, but I educate so many students every term and they just don't get the idea. Even the companies that hire young developers don't get the idea that security is not something that is shipped, right? It is something that the one that writes the code, the one that configures the servers, you know, these people, they do security, right? You cannot buy yourself a security package and then you're good to go. Forget all about these weird commercials with buying this and that software with a dog icon or whatever. Well, yeah, it is. I get kind of mad every time I see that, because it's like, no, it's not enough. I'm not saying it's not good to have it. I'm just saying it's not enough. You know, not at all. It's like saying, oh, if I put socks on my feet, then it wouldn't get wet. It's like, yeah, if it rains. But it's just the way it is. So even though that I kind of strayed off a path here, I think you probably got the idea that I'm not really a fan of frameworks. I just think sometimes just do it with a library instead. Don't choose a big framework, because frameworks got some things that I want to talk about. And basically just gonna talk about the very first question: is Django insecure? Which is not a weird question to ask, because I want to say yes and no to everything. You know, every library, every framework. It is not the framework that is insecure. Yes, it is insecure. No, not everything in it is bad. So it is just another framework, you know. And you know, they go out on their website, you know, telling people that this is a secure framework, but it's not. You know, you will see that when we get through this presentation here. It is not just secure as they say. You know, maybe they implemented some. If you do it like that, you know, if you call your database through our methods and our model and stuff like that, then you maybe get some, you know, SQL injection prevention. But that is not everything in security. Maybe if you call our view through our view model in some way, and then you mitigate yourself out of cross-site scripting. Sure, I get it, but it is not that. It's just not enough. You know, there's so many more things than just these common 3 webs attacks. People always mention like, oh, brute forcing, yeah, SQL injection and cross-site scripting. Like, yeah, I know, but that's not enough. Sorry, you know. Frameworks got the weaknesses and the strength, you know, and you know, talking about a framework really fires me up in a certain way, as you can feel, because I disagree with so many teachers about the use of frameworks, and to show young students with no education, the first education they take in computer, whatever, a programming academic degree in programming, you know, and they've been shown a framework for the first time just after having like 4 months of Java programming. It's insane little time, you know, and it's only in school and it's learning it, so it's variables and if statements and stuff like that, you know. Haven't even started to grasp the idea of how complex a framework is. Then they're starting with it. So without even understanding the framework, they're just doing something in it because it's convenient. And convenience is a horrible word in security because it just doesn't rhyme with this is secure. It rhymes with, oh, I want to be hacked. And we see that a lot actually when students upload their projects on their DigitalOcean droplets and stuff like that. You know, you many times say, oh, I just got hacked. It's like, yeah, I know. It's because of, and it's charming, I guess. It's a school project, so we can laugh about it. But what if they are educated and they go out, you know, and do that? Will they get another job if they talk about this person who did it? So, just to get back again to the path, the question, is Django insecure? I just want to mention one disadvantage, that it got a really steep learning curve. No, I know, say, but this is Python, I don't even have to understand the language almost. Like, yeah, but then you haven't really understood what a framework is, because a framework is not about the language. You know, the language doesn't matter. You know, it's just for your convenience. Either you know it or you don't, and that's about it. You know, that's what it means. The framework is all about how it is constructed, how you use it, the weight of it. Are you being forced to develop in a certain way? You know, or do you have free hands to do what you want to do? Both approaches are the same. There's no difference in it. If you're forced to work in a specific way and develop something, you as a developer will try and find loopholes to do what you do better, because that is what developers do. Developers, they try to find loopholes, want to try to find a way to do it smarter, easier, to make their boss happy, you know. Oh, we can only do it in one model, oh, we can do it in one class. Hey. And so, yeah, I get it. I know, I was there. I have been a developer. I know everything about these kind of things. And I'm not trying to sweet talk any one of you or tell you that you're a bad developer or anything. I'm just saying sometimes the elder guy know more than the young guy, and sometimes you should listen to them. And it is all about experience, and it's a thing, you know. I want to change the page now. So are frameworks worth it? Now, I wrote down some points that it may be easy for you to develop modern web applications. That is true. It may be faster for you to get things done. Now, both are very good arguments to choose a framework, because with a framework you might even get this, you write the code once and you can just change one configuration, or you don't even have to. When you press go or whatever you do terminal wise, or you just upload whatever you have, then it just works for tablets, high screen resolutions, you know, big screens, cell phones, smartphones, and it just works. You know, you even get a small app created that works for Apple Watch, something like that. You know, it's like, what? Yeah, I get it. You know, I back in 2012, I started doing some app development using, what was it called again? I'm just going to find it. This is the Hybrid App Development Framework, PhoneGap. Yeah, and then back then it was really quirky working, not really the best framework, but I used it anyways because I had to do some classes for some students to do hybrid. And I would even though that there were some better alternatives to creating more native applications, you know, people just wanted this easy way, you know, everything JavaScript, and this is another weird movement in the web industry. Why do everything have to be JavaScript now? I have the answer. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that web developers need more educations then, because it's easier, more convenient to know one language. You can do everything back-end, front-end, database, way to go. But 2 years of education is not enough, so you're gonna need at least 4. But that's really just the way it is. It can be the right path for you to choose a framework, you know, but I also want to say that a framework is not always the right answer. And I really want to stress this, that you do not pop development your applications. I actually wrote the meaning of it down below because it's something I teach my own students. It is just choosing a popular framework because it was there for your convenience, because it is, when you go to Google and type most popular framework, you go with that. Why? Have you asked yourself why? And most young people that does that, I'm going to stress the point young people, because they don't have the experience of saying, but I need to compare it with this and that I did before, because they don't. Only if you've been in the industry for a very long time and you're 22 years old and you developed since you were like 12, okay, given, maybe then you can say something. But most people, the majority, is not like that. So I wanna stress it again. Don't just choose a framework because it's on the top 3 and you pick the first one. It's not the way to go. The way to go is way different, and I would always recommend you to do vanilla development first. Understand how to create yourself a mini framework. What is an option relation mapper? What is a URL reader that, you know, can smart URLs versus parameterized URLs? What's different from that? You know, what is a database manager in a way? You know, make these kind of things. Make yourself your own abstraction layers of security to prevent like SQL, JSON, cross-scripting, cross-request forgery. If you follow a set of rules, because then it will work. There's so many things you should do. When you then understand what you're doing, then you could probably go on to choose a framework. That would be the best ideal way. But the reality calls for that you cannot do what I say because you are on a tight schedule. You're being pushed by the industries, by the job, to do more and faster work, which is a part of the problem. So even though that you can agree with me, or of course you can also disagree, that's okay. But even though that you agree with me, we also know that, yeah, but I cannot just do that because my boss is telling me the deadline is soon. Yeah, I know. Let's get ongoing. Of course, when you talk about securing Django applications, there's usual stuff, you know. I just mentioned a couple: click jack protection, and you of course need to use TLS, SSL, HTTPS, whatever you're gonna call it. You know, it is a TLS, but you know, many people just say SSL still because it's just like that. I want to say the first rule is never to trust user submitted data. You know, you have no idea how many types of. Have you ever mapped out a web application's input surface? Like what? So many places. Stuff you even haven't thought about. It's like, oh yeah, that's actually input. But you just don't think about it. It's like, let me just see, what is input? It is all the input fields, and then you say the URL line. What then? What more you think there is? And most people's like, but that's the input that I created. No, not really, because there are more than that. What about you look at the headers, for example? Look at the headers you sent, the HTTP headers. In Burp, for example, using Burp proxy. All that is input. It's going to the web server. Maybe not to your code directly, but it's going to the web server. That is input to your application, because at the end of the day, it's going to hit your application in some way. What about cookies? Sessions? What about serialized data? You know, I could continue. So, what about all the things you don't see? Like, let me see, you could figure something more out. What about the XML files? If you have something like that, you know, There's so many things you could map out, and it's like, oh yeah, we have a lot more data coming through the application. So that is really just the key number one rule. And you should think that, oh, since Django tells us that this is a secure framework, we can just do it. But the reality is that no framework does it like that, because you still have to write the code, and eventually you know that you can run some commands and you get some user input, you can put it in a variable, you can loop through it, you can split it, you can do whatever you want to do with it, compare it, whatever you do into the database. But that data is not sanitized or checked, so you need to do that. Of course, there are different kind of common Django security attacks, and it is just the list of common stuff going on all applications, basically. I'm not really going to talk about the types of attacks, because this is not what this video is about. It's just me saying that, Django is not different. It is me stating to you right now that Django is not different from other frameworks, from other web pages. It is not special. It is not a glorified piece of software that does things for you in a more secure way. It is just another web page. At the end of the day, when a hacker sees a web page, they don't care about what you used. They might care about some versions at some point, because maybe they can exploit that. So we're going to talk about common security issues in frameworks. That's a big thing, It's like, it's a whole thing you do as a pen tester. When you see a website, like, oh, can I hack it? That's really what they say. Like, oh, can I hack it? And you want to hack it because it's a piece of whatever you see, and you want to hack that website. And the first thing you look for is the version number. If you've seen any version number and it's insecure, blamey, you might even have an exploit. And it doesn't matter what the developers did or do or know, it's just vulnerable, nothing to do about it. So that's not a framework. If you didn't use a framework in this particular case, there would be no vulnerabilities like that, because there would be no version number on it. But then, of course, there will be other things that you might forgot as a developer, like always doing cross-site request forgery stuff, always doing a screen injection, always having the secure layer, always doing multi-factor authentication, and so on, so on, so on, so on. So I will not just talk about that. It's really heavily relying on the developer, whether the application is secure or not. Of course, there are different things you need to do to always implement to Django, but even though it's a really good framework, I kind of like it, but I also dislike frameworks in just general, so it's just the way it is. Sorry, guys. Use additional encryption always. Always use some custom URLs that you can see that there's some text you can read, so it gives sense. Use multi-factor authentication. Be very aware about your Git commits. Use some honeypots to understand the attacks. It's basically diverting the traffic to another web page where the attackers will try and do stuff, so you can understand what they're doing. And always never stop. Always never stop. Never stop testing your security on your application. So there of course are some security libraries you can talk about. I just mentioned a few here. I cannot really go into depth with them, but if I were to develop a secure Django application, I would probably think, how can I get multi-factor authentication? To secure auth provides authentication to do TOTP, time-based one-time password, and short message service, SMS, security code, question, answers, pairs, and so on, and also captures. I would really like that. Also, Defender to block brute force attack login tabs. I would probably rely on some of those, but before you rely on a module, what is the number one thing you're gonna do? Right? Think about it. The number one thing you're gonna do is go to the internet, the interwebs. That sounds more fun, right? And research. Have this module had some problems before with many security issues? If the answer is yes, you might have to think twice before you implement it, because every time you implement another module, you implement another attack surface for the hacker. People just don't think about it. It's like, oh, we're gonna slap on these 4 modules and then boom, boom, boom. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 more attack surfaces for the attacker. This is the way it is. So try to do the things as yourself, but you can also do some module stuff if you really want to do that. You know, but think about what you're doing. I want to say the wrap up is like Django is no better than any other framework. You know, it's just another framework, and I don't really care what people say about that the framework is so more secure than others. I don't agree, and it's okay if you disagree. I actually want you to do a comprehensive comment back to me if there's something that I missed, or if you really think that I missed something. But before you do that, please try and think about what I said and keep your feelings out of it, because feelings has nothing to do with security. So I want to say I'm really open to you guys. You want to have something to say. If you want to hear me talk about a specific framework, leave a comment below. I'm gonna think about it, do a video. You know, I'm usually pretty fast creating a video. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. Really hope you learned something, you know, some perspective, some ideas, thinking about stuff, and really that is what I want to do. You know, it doesn't really matter if you agree with me. It doesn't really matter if you don't agree with me. What really matters is that you took yourself a step further and you said like, okay, I can do this different. I actually think more about security now in a way, but maybe not the way that I told you to do it, but you just think more about security, and that is already better than doing nothing. So really, if you have watched the video, got to this end, congratulations. I just, you know, thank you for this, because it is making my world a better and safer place if you do your code better, because I use some of the services probably. And I just want to say, please do your best, think about security, and knock your boss in the head if they say no. Have a nice day.